Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a fascinating philosophical text that uses one of the most familiar parts of our bodies, yep, the human eye, to make a really unique argument about the entire universe. So let's see how it builds its case. So, the source material we're digging into today kicks off with this massive question. The author suggests that, if you really quiet your mind, you can almost feel a supernatural power at play, some kind of force that prearranges the course of our lives. And where does the author claim all the evidence for this power is? Not hidden away in the stars or in some ancient text, but somewhere much, much closer. The argument is that the eye itself is maybe the most powerful piece of evidence we have to answer that big cosmic question. Okay, let's jump into our first section and see how this argument actually gets built. The author calls the eye the window of the soul. They argue it's responsible for, get this, over 80% of how we understand the world around us. It's our primary tool for perceiving and, frankly, surviving in nature. This is the big challenge the text throws out there, right? Could this unbelievably complex organ, with all its different parts and functions, really have just evolved from a single-celled organism over time? Well, the source directly questions that idea, suggesting that the eye's complexity points to a completely different conclusion. So, how does the author make the case for a designed vision? Well, what's really interesting is where their breakdown starts. It's not with what we can see, but actually with what we're prevented from seeing. The argument here is that our vision is intentionally limited to this tiny, tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. If we could see everything, X-rays, UV, infrared, the text claims the world would just be this chaotic, crazy swirl of weirdly colorful scenes that would totally overwhelm our nervous system and probably drive us insane. So this limitation is actually framed as a form of protection. And even inside that narrow band of light that we can see, the text points to our ability to tell the difference between millions of colors. I mean, the author asks a pretty powerful question. If we were colorblind, how could we ever enjoy the incredible beauty of nature? This ability is presented as an intentional gift. Then there's the physical size of the eye. Think about it. How can a tiny 24-millimeter organ give us such a massive field of vision, letting us see for dozens of kilometers? The text argues that if our vision was limited to an area just the size of our eye, like looking through a tiny tube, well, survival would be next to impossible. And this slide really nails the author's next point, the incredible power of having two eyes. The source argues this isn't just some minor feature. No, stereoscopic vision is presented as absolutely crucial for survival, letting us judge depth and do delicate things like threading a needle that would be incredibly hard with just one eye. Okay, so it's not just about seeing. A huge part of this argument is all about how the eye protects itself. The author doesn't see these as random quirks of evolution, but as a perfectly designed, multi-layered defense system that works all on its own without us even thinking about it. I mean, just take the simple act of blinking, right? We do it all the time without even noticing. But the author points to it as this considerate built-in maintenance function. It's an automatic process that cleans, moistens, and protects the cornea, literally saving our sight without us ever lifting a finger. And this is where the text gets really vivid, using these incredible military metaphors. Eyebrows are like an umbrella. Eyelids are loyal guards. And tears? They're the cleaning crew that not only flushes out junk, but actually contains something called lysozyme, an enzyme that actively destroys bacteria. The author argues this whole system is just too perfect to be an accident. This quote from the text really captures the author's whole perspective. In this view, eyelashes aren't just hairs. They're framed as these vigilant guards, a literal platoon of sentinels on high alert, protecting a vital asset. All right, so we've covered function, and we've covered protection. But the author's final line of reasoning goes beyond all the practical stuff and into the world of aesthetics, arguing that the eye also serves an artistic purpose. So the text describes this wild thought experiment where the author brainstormed hundreds of different places to put the eyes. What if they were on our hands or the top of our head? The conclusion the author comes to is that any change from where they are now results in ugliness. In this view, the current placement is the only one that's aesthetically perfect. And here's the crucial point. The author argues that beauty itself is an intended function. Think about phrases like bright eyes or speaking eyes. They point to a purpose that goes way beyond just sight. In this argument, the fact that eyes can convey emotion and be seen as beautiful is a distinct feature, one designed to give us aesthetic enjoyment.
So let's bring all these points together and see what the author's ultimate conclusion is. We've looked at the arguments from limited vision, color perception, self-protection, and of course, aesthetics. So what does it all add up to? And right here, this is the capstone of the entire argument. The author concludes that through the function, the protection, and especially the beauty of our own eyes, we can see the exquisite and profound wisdom of a creator. For this author, the eye isn't just a biological organ, it's a piece of art that proves the existence of the artist.
Ultimately, this source presents a really specific philosophical framework. It uses a part of ourselves that we honestly take for granted every single day to argue for something magnificent. Now, whether you agree with the final conclusion or not, it leaves us with this final question, one that kind of invites us to reconsider how we see the world and maybe how we see ourselves.